Life is a jungle.
Okay, rolling.
Hello, welcome to The Jungle. I'm your host, Amberly Lobo. Our guest today turned a tiny hole-in-the-wall gym in Perth into a national fitness empire.
Life is a jungle.
Revo Fitness has 36 gyms across Australia, and we are chatting to the founder about how it grew up so fast. Plus, he's going to share his tips on productivity, navigating difficult times, obstacles, success, and so much more. It is the unstoppable Andrew Holder.
Welcome to the jungle with Amberly Lobo. Welcome to the jungle.
Andrew Holder, welcome to The Jungle, special edition on location.
Thank you for having me.
Well, thanks for being here. So, as kids, you and I were very similar. We both had a dream of playing cricket for Australia.
That's right.
We were both exceptionally talented right-arm quicks.
I'm not certainly a right arm quick.
I thought you were.
Very slow.
Oh, okay, slow.
Yeah, slower than quick.
I was fast.
Yeah, all right, good.
We both went on the Justin Langer cricket camp at the same time.
Yep.
And we both didn't achieve our dream of playing cricket for Australia.
No, we didn't.
It was tragic.
Yes, correct.
I feel like you got closer than me though, because how far did you get with it?
I was really lucky. Later on in my career, representing Western Australia in Sheffield Shield cricket. So I played a handful of games and a little bit of second 11 cricket as well. So I was around the traps for a couple of years, which was really cool. But it happened later on in my career. So I think that it just allowed me to kind of savor it a little bit more rather than just kind of rushing into it earlier on when you wanted it too much. I thought the opportunity kind of passed itself when I was actually going to play. So it was a really cool opportunity for me to do it.
Well, even though you didn't go on to become the next Glenn McGrath and me, the next Megan Schultz, you did do something much cooler. You have created this incredible fitness empire. And today we're going to talk about how you took this hole-in-the-wall gym and turned it into this incredible, beautiful beast that is Revo Fitness. So thank you so much.
Thank you for the kind words. That's very nice of you.
Oh, no, I'm honestly so excited to find out how you did it. And I thought a cool entry point for this discussion would be 2012, you were 22 years old, you just graduated uni and you came across an opportunity to open a gym. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so finishing off my degree at the University of Western Australia, I was studying a Bachelor of Commerce in Marketing Management and Entrepreneurship. And at the time, I was working in my family small business indoor sports centre. There was a small PT studio that around 200 square metres that was moving out, and I didn't really know what to do with my life. At that stage, I was really driven to become a professional sports person. As we were talking about earlier, playing cricket for WA in Australia, and didn't end up happening for Australia, obviously. But because of all of that focus. Into that kind of mindset of wanting to become a professional sports person. It kind of lent into starting this business and naively kind of, beginning Revo Fitness in 2012 as a 22-year-old.
Yeah, because I guess the Revo Fitness that we know today, it's got those large spaces, the big functional training rooms, the cardio areas, the Pilates, the indoor plants, the high ceilings. But in 2012, like this OG Revo Fitness was really different. Like, what did that look like? Yeah,
because it was only 200 square metres and we're essentially balling on a budget as a 22-year-old. I was the only employee, and everything that we were making, we were just reinvesting. And when we opened the doors, we only had 30 members. And so that feedback loop was super small. And so essentially, we just kept listening to all of our members about what they wanted, how they wanted to see the gym, what equipment they wanted, what kind of style of training they were into. And essentially, we just started creating this model revolving around what our members wanted rather than what we perceived they wanted. And so, it just kind of evolved from there. But from an aesthetic perspective, I read these, wacky kind of like, mantras of, blue and yellow was a calming environment. So we had this big blue wall, like royal blue wall, this, big fluorescent yellow wall.
Wait, it said fluorescent yellow.
Yeah,
No!
it looked like I was, a big West Coast Eagles fan or something like that. It was, which I'm not, but no, I just thought it was going
Forever
to be
Freo, Purple Rain.
And so for me, like, I just thought that would be something very different. And I really didn't want to lean into what historically or traditionally the fitness industry was. And so I think I was always trying to push away from, the status quo of using your corporate colours and all of that kind of thing. So, I was trying to disrupt myself in a lot of ways, and trying to not lean into kind of what the industry traditionally was.
We studied business marketing. Did you do a business plan for this, or were you kind of just winging it? Were you like...
Yeah, look, I think there was a little bit of a plan, but I think that's with a lot of small businesses, it comes from just an initial small idea and then it fleshes out over time and you understand what your consumer wants, your target market wants, and then you start to procure, that overarching business plan when you start to scale. So essentially when we first started the business, it was looking at, well, what did I want to see as an 18 to 22-year-old using the gym, prosperously poor as a uni student, trying your butt off to try and, make ends meet. So, making it affordable, making the quality there. And, for me, wanting to be an aspiring athlete, just fitting it out the way that I would want it to be, and then what a first-time user would want to be. So that was essentially just as simple as what the business model was. And then it refined over time. And, as you continuously scale and grow the business, you understand how to use your data better, your feedback loops, creating systems and structures to be able to scale more sustainably.
Yeah, you mentioned feedback loops and how at the start you were really focused on what your members wanted.
Yeah.
How important was that for you in getting that initial success in that space?
I actually think that that's predominantly the reason why we're in the position we are today, because it's still the main driver for our business. And so, I live and breathe our reviews. I live and breathe all the feedback through our Zendesk ticketing and what our members have to say. And I'm really strong on making sure our operations team are listening to our member, because the reality is we're nothing without them. And it's our purpose from a head office, from an operations on the road, from a club manager perspective, to be able to serve them the best way possible. We're quasi-hospitality in a lot of ways. Yes, we're a subscription model where there's recurring revenue, but at the same point in time, that can switch off straight away. So making sure that their experience is, world-class and, that quality to pricing point disparity is still really strong is what drives us every single day. So making sure that we've consistently got that feedback loop is essentially why we're now where we are with 36 gyms nationally.
Yeah, I was going to say, I guess like getting customer feedback easier when you're in that little tiny space.
Yeah.
But now that you've got 36, how do you keep your finger on the pulse with what people want now?
Well, I mean, early on in the case, it was easy because I was everything to everyone. So I was the cleaner, I was the service tech, I was the salesperson, so you're just talking to everyone and you're just getting that immediate feedback. Now, the systems and structures that we've got, our operations team, a lot of it comes down to intuition as well. So being on the gym floor, making sure that you're connected to each location and understanding that you can pick up the phone and ask a question. And, my responsibility as a leader within Revo Fitness is to make sure that people are really transparent and honest. And I've been really lucky to have really strong leadership surrounding me that gives me real-time feedback. And that kind of flows through the company. And so if I can call, I've got the ability to call up a club manager can call me and give me real-time feedback. That just really drives the business and creates that measurable continuous improvement that always improves a business.
Well, I want to jump back into 2012, this
Yep.
OG Revo,
Yep.
200 square meters, you're wearing multiple hats, you're doing all the roles. What was a day in your life like back then?
That's a really good question. It was probably just going with the flow a little bit. Because you're wearing all these hats, it's probably you're firefighting a lot. So you're going from the highest priority at a time. And so because you're doing that, you're always finding ways to become a little bit more autonomous. And because I wanted to get more time back in my day, I probably lent into systems and that autonomy a lot earlier on than what I probably anticipated. So, and that's created, that foundation where we were able to scale a little bit more quicker than what I even thought we were able to do. So I think that was probably the main thing that I was focused on is, you're focusing on the main priorities for the day, getting in early, leaving late, but creating systems that, allowed me to just be a one-person band at that point in time, but give me enough time to work on the business, not just in the business.
Yeah, in that startup phase, you mentioned getting in early, working late. Like, was it a lot of work? Were you working Monday to Sunday? Were you doing like...
Yeah.
What was your...
I mean, I think like even if you talk to my wife now, I'm never really off. Like my mind's always thinking and, I'm always wanting to find better ways of working and how to improve our business every single day. And I think it doesn't feel like work to me, so when you're in that startup mentality, and I still feel like we're in that startup mentality, you're just going through the motions, and you're feeling how you can make yourself better every single moment. And different, challenges don't really feel like challenges, because that's just part of the journey of creating a business, right? And so, you talk about late nights, early mornings, all of that kind of thing, opening the front door when we weren't 24/7, all that kind of thing, people not rocking up to shifts in our second club, and you being there. It just feels like it was meant to be, so you don't really question it. It's just that flow state.
Life is a jungle.
Well, so about a year into you opening this first gym, you've done really well. You've grown your membership base, and then in comes a guy called George.
Yeah.
Can you tell us about George? Who was this guy?
Yeah, so we grew our business, really sustainably, and we're a startup business, so we were bootstrapped from day one, and so we scaled the business, and we're outgrowing our existing location in Shenton Park, and at that point in time I was 23 when we were getting to that kind of scale, and I was going, okay, well this looks really good. I was looking for a new location, and who was going to lease a 800 to 1,000 square meter box to a 23-year-old who lived with his parents and had no assets, right? So like that was just never going to happen. And so George serendipitously kind of came involved by just being around. He was a really great mentor to me in my earlier on in Revo Fitness, and he was phenomenally successful in telecommunications, and there was a lot of similarities between the telecommunications industry and what we were doing from a subscription based modeling. And he kind of saw the opportunity to kind of get involved, and I jumped at the chance to have a mentor and a business partner come involved. And he started a business earlier on in his career, at his age, and he kind of really respected about what I was doing, so he kind of let me run my own race. But at the same point in time, knew that we needed a bit of maturity in the room to get leases done. So getting a little bit of, as he would say, I'm not actually throwing him under the bus. A bit of grey hair in the room actually helped a lot in the early days, just to get deals done and get the momentum flowing for Revo Fitness. And I think it's a testament to the relationship that him and I have, is the fact that we're still business partners to this day. And he got involved around 2014, 2015, and I wouldn't have it any other way.
So what were some of those early conversations and goals that he sort of said to you where he could see it going? Did he think, was he like throwing around 36 gyms back then? Like, how big was he thinking?
Yeah, George is a really big thinker, and, just allowed me to raise my eye line. And so, and he really lent in the fact that, systems and autonomy will create the value of the business. And, it was a really great piece of advice for a 23-year-old to hear, because it doesn't revolve around you. And a lot of the time as a founder, you feel like you need to be the deserved one. Everything needs to be about you. And it was a really good moment for me to kind of take a step back, reiterate why Revo Fitness was becoming successful, why people were resonating with the brand, and build the systems and structures around me to be able to be successful. And so he just allowed me to, raise my eye line and give the chance to Revo to become what it wanted to be, not to basically limit it to what it couldn't be.
So you take George with his
Yep.
grey hair to the bank.
Yeah.
You get the green light, and this moves you into like the North Bridge, your first big store, gym. What was that like in the lead up to opening that?
Yeah, it was crazy, because, there's a bit of naivety as a 23-year-old going, oh, I can just do it again. And then you realise you're on the tools, and you're putting the equipment together, and you're rolling the paint on the walls. And
you were doing it? Yeah,
you have to, right? And that's all of the, the grit and determination and the grafting that you have to do as a startup business. So yeah, it was an eye-opening experience, but I actually kind of miss those kind of moments as well now that we're like at this scale, because I don't think sometimes some of the staff believe me and going like, no, I did that. And they're like, did you? But I did. And that, I think that's what, makes Revo so special, because, we're not franchised, we're operated, centrally, and, there is a bit of soul and a bit of character to it. And, there is a bit of, war stories to, make us to where we are today. So yeah, I love those times, because there was, me, the builders, going and, project managing on the floor rather than just, passing it to our design and development team to do a phenomenal job. Like, they would not be happy with the way that I operated, like our project management. But, that's what has made us to the position where we are to have those kind of people. So, it was a phenomenal time, but it was definitely an eye-opening experience going from 1 to 2 and then from 2 to 3 and 2 to 6.
Yeah, I was going to say, so like when you went from that 1 to 2, were there any freak out moments where you're like in that big space, painting the walls, being like, is this going to work? Or were you kind of all in? I think it comes with like that youthful exuberance where it's just going to work. So, I think that kind of, I think that kind of mentality helped me not think of anything as failure, and you'll always find a way to navigate through any rough seas. We opened the gym and, it may have only had 100 members to start with when you open the front doors, but, where we had come from, that's a win, so everything kind of felt exciting and everything was moving forward. So we never thought of it. And I never thought of it as a challenge. It was just always just the next step in terms of progressing the company to, fulfill its destiny. Yeah, well, since Northbridge, you guys are going from strength to strength. As you mentioned, you've got 36 gyms at the time of this recording. Your numbers of gyms have tripled nationally since 2020, and your membership base has increased by 800% since 2020, which is huge. Yeah. So congratulations. Did you ever think it would get that big?
No, absolutely not. I think that's the beauty of it, because you don't it's not that you don't have targets or goals or visions. You just don't set any expectations on what it could be. So if you've got that continuous improvement mindset, every single day you rock up to your place of employment or your work or Revo, and you kind of start to think about how to just get better. And then you look up in 3 years and you've got 36 locations. You go, oh, this is really cool.
That's so
right.
Cool.
It's certainly not what I expected, but I'm certainly grateful for what it's become and what it's becoming.
What was the moment when you were like, wow, we're onto something pretty big here?
It's a good question. I think the first one was when we opened Myri, which was our 6th location. We put into practice a potential pre-sale strategy, and we opened the doors and it was cash flow positive. And that moment I thought, wow, the public's really resonating with this brand. And it wasn't like, I don't know why, like that's what I wanted, but it was hard to fathom. And that moment was probably when George and I sat down, in our quite successful moment and going, okay, we've got something real here. Not to say the 5 before weren't great, but it was just that real defining moment for us going, okay, we can scale this properly. And we've got the right people around us to be able to actually grow it. And I've been really fortunate to surround myself with great leaders, great executors to be able to, grow the business to what it is today. But that was really one of the key moments. And then probably the other one was Inaloo, in Western Australia. We were at the back end of 2020. It was that kind of moment of going, stuff it, we're going to grow during COVID, because we saw 3 options. And it was an interesting time because in Western Australia, we were locked out from the rest of the world, which was horrible for a lot of reasons, but from a business opportunity standpoint, never let a crisis go to waste kind of mentality. None of our competitors could come in. None of the large format retailers could come in. And then all of a sudden, these opportunities that you wanted to see over, 10 years of operating a business is starting to fall into your lap, and you're going, okay, well, I've worked my butt off for 10 years.
Do you just mean in terms of spaces being available?
Yeah, okay. Yeah, absolutely. So when we had the opportunity to take up on Inaloo, it was the biggest gym we'd ever done. It was 1,767 square meters. So it was double the biggest we'd ever done. And we put into practice the Myri strategy, and it resonated with the public. And that really catapulted us to going, okay, let's have a look at how we can mature our locations in Western Australia and, target new states. So they're probably the 2 really big defining moments for me.
I want to dive into COVID a little bit more, because you're obviously in the business of operating gyms, and they were high risk. They were first close, last open, which, I mean, that would have sucked. Yeah. Do you remember what it was like when you sort of heard those announcements and found out the news that you're going to have to like shut doors?
Absolutely. I'm getting goosebumps thinking about it, because it was March 23 at 6 p.m. You get it. not to put a date or time onto it, but I was sitting at home watching the news and realizing, oh, holy crap, we're actually closing, right? And we don't know when we're going to reopen. And that was probably the most daunting moment of my entire career of, going. And usually when, you're a young entrepreneur, starting a business and founder-led business, you lean on your mentors and you call up George and you call up your other mentors and the people that you trust and you go, what are your thoughts? And they're like, I don't know what to do. And you're like, oh, okay. All right, sweet. This is everyone. Everyone's in the same boat, right? And I think that also gave me a sense of calm as well. That because it was such an anomaly, everyone was in the same position. It wasn't advantageous or disadvantageous. Everyone just was on an even playing field, right? Whereas going through COVID, that was probably the more frustration for us. Was we knew, we were deemed as a high risk environment, which was really disappointing. But we knew what health and fitness meant to people and what it meant to actually stay fit and healthy to fight. So to be the last to open, first to close was a really difficult position to be in. But getting back to the closure announcement, I remember, speaking to George at the time, and we were like, all right, let's just buckle down. We'll think about it. And the next day, I went into the office, and at the time we only had one other person in our head office, and it was Dane, our now COO, and we were having a really good conversation. And we were both, there was tears and there was like a lot of emotion about what was going to happen, and the what ifs and buts. And the conversation revolved around, well, if we're feeling like this, could you imagine how our employees feel, right? And could you imagine how our members feel? And that kind of leadership moment was a really transient time, a really pivotal moment for Dane and I to kind of think, okay, it's not about us again, right? It's let's lead from the front. Let's look after our people and do the right thing, and we'll make up for the losses of revenue, or we'll make up for the losses in profitability down the track because of goodwill. And that was the real pivotal moment where I felt that we struck a chord, and the public really appreciated, firstly, and lent into our story of being that startup local fitness offering.
Life is a jungle.
Stop the podcast. I'm going to let you finish, Andrew. I just want to take a second to talk about myself. So when it comes to clothes, I am all about comfort. My favourite shirt in the whole entire world is this Lakers shirt that I've got, and I've worn it so many times that I am sick of the logo. So now I wear it inside out because it's so comfortable. So if you actually look at the marketing shots for the podcast, that's what's going on there. That shirt is definitely inside out. But in really cool news, American Apparel have recognised my passion for comfort, and it's something they are also equally passionate about. And so they are coming on board as a sponsor of the show. So excited about this. I am an OG American Apparel fan, so a big welcome to the jungle, American Apparel. If you've not heard of American Apparel, let me just tell you, they are comfy, ethically sourced and sustainable, and their clothes will also make you look really pretty. If that sounds like you, even if it doesn't sound like you, go check them out today, americanapparel.com.au. Back to the podcast. I mean, it's not easy to do, and you mentioned earlier before in that time of crisis, it's often a time of opportunity, and you guys sort of hit the accelerator almost and kept moving. Yeah. And how many did you open? 3 stores?
Yeah, we opened 3.
Yeah,
so we opened 3 in 2020, which was pretty wild.
That's so crazy. Yeah.
But that was also, that came down to market as well.
Yeah.
We were, let's be real, we were very, very lucky to be in Western Australia, and it would be a very different story if we were based out of Melbourne. I
was in Melbourne at the time.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Yeah, it was so different.
So, that kind of, that dumb luck in a lot of ways, kind of we lent into it because you can only deal with the environments that you're in. So, we had those 3 options of, stay still and fail, and kind of try and be sustainable and stay still, which is a risk. Grow and fail, which is a risk, or grow and win and take market share and get share of voice. And we chose the latter because it felt right, and we sensed a moment in July, August where we could really take advantage of that and provide a service that was affordable. People were struggling financially as well. So, our affordability, making fitness more accessible to the general public, large format retail spaces, large format gyms aren't really a thing in Western Australia at that point in time. So people appreciated space. And so just really leaning into all of the things that were our core competencies, just associated ourselves scaling in 2020 and 2021. The population and the people of Perth responded positively, which I'm super grateful for, because, I do all of this for, the community and, creating an impact, a positive impact for the community in terms of a health and wellness journey. And our purpose as a company is to provide fitness that's accessible and affordable. So regardless of the environment and the situation that we were in, we had a duty to be able to perform that. And again, like making it not about us, and putting our mind into the putting our thoughts into the minds of our employees and our members really kept us in good stead.
Was it still hard going through that time day in that COVID period?
I just felt like it was never going to end. That was very helpless. It just felt like it was never going to end. And it just felt like it was just around the corner. And I think that playing sport played a huge part in the resilience and that grit, because playing cricket, you fail more than you win, and you succeed. And so, that feeling of getting hit down, getting back up, I think is just ingrained into the psyche of cricketers and sports people. And I think that certainly helped my leadership, and helped us get through those periods of times, because I remember sitting at my desk and going through the gyms, locking the front doors and calling Elise and going, I don't know how much more I could go with this. And, Elise is just such a phenomenal support for me, and, such a believer in what I'm doing and what the company can achieve and you're going, okay, you've had your moment. That's great. Let's get back on track. It's just around the corner, and that's where the magic happens, that holding on for that last 5 seconds,
so true.
You just, all of a sudden you see the magic happen. And, it's like batting in cricket, like you may feel out of form, but if you just graft and, hold the line, and don't change too much, all of a sudden, runs are around the corner. And so, I just kept that mentality of it's just around the corner, and, we were fortunate enough for it to come off.
Do you have any advice for people who are maybe in a situation where they feel like they've got a whole bunch of obstacles being thrown at them left, right and centre, or maybe they're trying to navigate a real uncertain time, on how to maybe keep moving forward when they're not quite sure of what's going on?
I felt like it's a good question. Whenever there's an obstacle, I kind of lent in harder. And if there was a challenge, I felt that I was actually knocking down the right door. And so I just lent in a little bit further, because I felt like that was the right thing to do, because nothing good comes easy. It's like a lease, in finding a new gym, that usually the ones that go the quickest aren't the best gyms. It's the ones that you graft away and, you work with the landlord and you work with developers to find equal ground to be able to succeed and, create a great environment for people and a great business for not only us, but for them. I feel like that's the same throughout life and throughout starting a business, is that whenever there is that kind of adversity, that leaning in moment is half the battle. And, not saying stuff it, but, really like thinking long, but acting quick, has been, a really good way for me to kind of progress Revo Fitness throughout the years.
Well, I'd be keen to hear about what your days are like now. Now that you have gone from the 200 square meters to the 36 gyms, are you still very boots to the ground? You're not wearing all those hats still, right?
No, I'm not wearing all the hats. I'm certainly not in the weeds. I love to be informed. My responsibility is to still be around the gym. So I try and get out to the gyms as much as possible and get out to all of our states and meet the people who are making us great. But my responsibility is to let go. As a founder, it's really easy to kind of hold on to everything. Surrounding myself with great talent to be able to delegate and let them drive ideas to create, to then execute, is fulfilling for me. And in the end, people don't join the gym and join Revo Fitness because it's my business. It's about the people who actually provide the service, provide the facilities, and provide the experience that make us so great. So for me on a day-to-day basis, I don't wear all those hats, but it's just making sure that we're informed and we're actually strategically going in the right direction.
Is it still a lot of work?
Yeah, it's a lot of work. Yeah, it's a lot of work because
I thought it would magically get easier.
No. I think the funny thing is when you do scale, you actually take the funner hats off, and so all the larger problems and the larger obstacles become your responsibility. So I love marketing, but that's a hat that when we started to grow our head office, it's one of the first hats that I took off to work with them. So because the reality is that that's something that is a really key and core area of our business that I wanted expertise in, finance as well. But all of these kind of problems slowly, come to you. But that's my responsibility. I'm an asset to the company. My responsibility is to provide solutions and provide my advice to the people around me to be able to execute their roles effectively to make a great business.
Well, you run an incredibly successful business. You also have a beautiful wife,
Yes.
2 amazing kids, and a very photogenic dog called Percy.
Yes, Percy.
So cute. What do you have any tips on like productivity and just like getting things done? Because you seem to have like all these stuff going on and it seems to be working.
Yeah, I've been I was very lucky to meet Elise really early on at uni, and so we've kind of I've grown Revo with her together, and she's been such a phenomenal support. And because I started Revo at 21 and then having kids now, it just gives me such great balance and allows me to understand boundaries and what I want to achieve in my life and why I want to achieve things in my life. For me, making sure I'm really clear with my time and being focused solely on where I am and where my feet are is really important. So, having breakfast with my girls is probably the number one priority for me, and making sure I'm home for bed or coming home from dinner. Those kind of things make me, it's a fulfilling experience to live my life that way. Because the reality is I'm always going to reopen my laptop once they go to bed. That's just who I am, and Elise respects and understands that. But that quality family time gives me the chance to be able to, find that kind of equilibrium to live a purposeful life.
Yeah. Do you find it hard setting boundaries? Has that been
extraordinarily hard. Yeah, extraordinarily hard because I think there's this, I don't know whether it's a founder mentality or a CEO or a business owner mentality where you're always running and you're always chasing, or you're feeling like you're being chased.
And it's just so invested in it as well.
And you've poured so much of your effort and time and love into this business that you don't want to let that opportunity go to waste. You spend 12 years creating, trying to push that, that boulder up that hill, and then all of a sudden you've got that momentum. You don't want that momentum to leave. And so I think it's like being in form in sport, once you're there, you're going, I'm in form. I really don't want to lose this spot. So you're really focused on making it work. That does create a lot of challenges in terms of, being disciplined in terms of timing. But when you're coming home or, waking up to see, your girls and your wife and Elise, it makes it worthwhile, and why you're doing it and the purpose of why you're running Revo and who you want to be as a leader. Because I'd love, one of the things that I think I mentioned to you when we caught up before was I want to be able to walk down the street and somebody cross the road and talk to me that I've done business with and be proud to introduce my daughters to them, right? That's something that I always keep in the front of my mind when I'm actually when I'm doing, when I'm in the mode of work, is the fact that, I want to be successful, but first and foremost, I want to be a good person. I want to do it the right way and, be successful and bring along people for the journey. And people go, I really enjoyed working with Revo, and I really enjoyed working with Andrew and the broader team, because that's a purposeful life, in my opinion.
Life is a jungle.
Yeah, I think you mentioned when we caught up, what one of the other rewarding things was having those people come along with you on the journey.
Yeah.
And your teammates, and being able to celebrate things with them.
Yeah, boring to do it by yourself. And I think bringing people along for the journey, just you get to share success, and half the time it's actually it's all the adversity that you actually treasure the most. It's the hard times. It's the 4 a.m. putting the bin bags into the the gym, gym toilet areas and all that kind of stuff, and all the things that, like painting the walls and like the paint on your arms when you're going to cricket training and going, what's that? Oh, I was just doing some home renos or something like that. Like, no, I've been just grafting since like 5 a.m. putting black paint on a wall. Those kind of things are the things that those moments are what you treasure most, and you look back in fondness of. You don't realize it at the time, but that's what makes team sport and what makes business so great, is that those shared experiences, whether they're great or bad, because the bad is what makes the great feel so good.
Do you have any, I think it'd be really cool to get some advice from you. Maybe we split it into tips on starting a business, or maybe what you've learned, and tips on growing a business.
Yeah. Starting a business is to get started. Nothing's perfect, and sitting on an idea, the opportunity may pass. So just, having a clear understanding of what you're trying to achieve, why you're achieving it, and who you're servicing, and then getting going is half the battle, because that first jump is the hardest. And then it's all about just putting one foot in front of the other to get out of the forest, right? So that's the first thing in terms of starting a business is, if let's say Facebook wanted to wait to be perfect, it's still changing and ever flowing, right? Like when I started Revo, I didn't think we would have a second tier membership price with Pilates, self-led reformer Pilates, or massage chairs, or Evolt body scanners. That's not where I thought it would go, but I didn't think about it back then, and I let it become what it wanted to be and what it needed to be for the consumer and our member. And in terms of, what was the other question?
Growing a business.
Growing a business. It's never about you. It's never about you. It's always about your consumer. It's about the person buying your product. It's about the person using your service. And if you're looking after your member, you'll look after your people, and you'll look after your profitability and the sustainability of the business. The moment it becomes about me is the moment that ego and your own personal success dictates the way that you run your business. And so that reinvestment, growing the brand and doing the right things continuously day on day takes care of itself if you're actually focusing on the right thing.
How do you know when to stop, like when big is big?
That is a really good question in a growth phase, because I don't know. I think that's why, looking at other companies around the world and seeing what their scalability is like, and being a founder of a business at such a young age, I've never really had another job. So I have to be really curious about where I get my information from, who I, want to get mentored by, how I keep informed. And so I need to be curious to see what scalability looks like and the ebbs and flows of business, and surrounding myself with the right people. And so I've got great mentors and business partners where I can bounce ideas off and get an idea about scalability and what they've done previously, and, the ebbs and flows of business, to be able to make sure that we're making the right decisions consistently. But for us at Revo, I don't want to put a ceiling on it, because that, or like an expectation of this is where I want to achieve, what I want to achieve in terms of membership numbers or, club openings, because the reality is that, the business will create the opportunities for itself if I focus on the right things, and create the right relationships and good relationships with people around Australia, whether it's landlords, leasing agents, our people, our employees, everyone around. So, I just try and make sure that from a scaling perspective that we're just doing the right thing every single day.
No, well, congratulations on everything you have achieved. Where can people either follow yourself, or connect with Revo?
Through social media for Revo Fitness. So TikTok and Instagram predominantly at Revo Fitness, and for me personally, LinkedIn.
It has been a pleasure. Just lastly, before you go, I always say life is a jungle. So do you have any parting wisdom on how to navigate the jungle of life?
Yeah, do it for others and bring people along for the journey.
Thank you. That was awesome. Andrew, thank you so much.
Life is a jungle.
Thank you so much for listening. You can find me at Amberly Lobo on socials, and for more information on the show, visit amberlylobo.com. Until next time, have loads of fun whatever you're up to. Goodbye.
That's going to be my answering machine recording message.